Okay, this is a bit of a rant really, but you know when you're on the bus, right, and the bus driver is always rude to you. Now I know a lot of people have actually experienced this, and I for one notice some bus drivers can be really rude. As you get off the bus or you get on it, they can rush you about, or they can be impatient bus drivers. I find that really unfair, you know, to the fact that, oh, I know, well, come on, get on the bus. Then hours later, you see him talking to another person. You know, this is things I don't like seeing about the buses. And one thing I don't like is when the bus driver is too busy chatting, either with the passengers or with the passenger getting off, or the passenger, or it could be not a passenger, it could be someone that they want a good conversation with, and there'd be hours and hours and hours and hours. This happened to me on the X4 bus, and I was really, really bored. Another thing is when the bus hits the curb. I hate when the buses hit the curbs. You know, when you're on the bus, it could be any bus, right? It doesn't have to be X4, it could be any bus. And you're just sitting on a bus, you know, and you want to relax, you know, you want this and that. And they just hit the curb and go really fast over the curb, or they could be really fast over the bumps, and you're like this, you're really holding on with your life, you're going like that, you know, you're almost jumping off your seat, you know. It's not very friendly. I know a lot of you people say, yeah, I don't like that with the bumps, but you only say it because of the double deckers. But the reason I would say it is because of single buses, because mostly this is to do with the fact that, well, in valleys there hasn't been a double decker ever since, so I can't really say that, but I can say for single bus drivers. And another thing, can the driver actually drive? Sometimes when I'm on the bus with the X4 bus, especially the X4, they go through a red light, and this was when I was down at Aberfenny one time. They went through a red light. They did not stop for anybody. They went through a red light. And this is in public areas and public transports. And I'm like, why did he go through the red light? If the light is red, you shouldn't really drive through. You know, because you got to let room for pedestrians to cross. And he was almost ran over the pedestrians. In Aberfenny. I was really disappointed with Stagecoach for doing that on the X4. And this was at Aberfenny, you know, going past. It was like, oh, but you know, and to be honest, they should really slow down with the buses. And yeah, I agree that if they're on the roads and stuff, the pedestrians should watch where they're going. You know, they shouldn't be on the roads and shit and stuff. Sorry about language. I should, well, just pretend that you heard me say sheds instead, okay? Because that's what I meant to say. Not that other curse word that you might have heard just then. Anyway, as I was saying, when I'm on the bus as well, it tends to get a little crowded, and I'm sitting like next to these kids, right? And they're like teenagers, you know, and they throw things and they shout and they scream and they do all these silly things. They even sing silly songs on the bus. I understand, like, but teenagers, you know. And not only that, when I was on the bus once, as well, right? Somebody was really like sort of pushing themselves over the limit, you know, shouting out for the window and leaving the window open. on the single bus, you know, on the X4. And as well as that, the driver was ever so rude, you know, like he would shout and abuse the taxi driver, and you know, like the taxi driver didn't do anything wrong, and you know, it kind of, they didn't like it, these bus drivers, you know, the stagecoach ones. They don't like it if a taxi driver was part. Yet if a bus driver was to go on a taxi rank, right, the taxi drivers wouldn't mind. I bet they wouldn't. And yet the bus drivers are complaining because, you know, there's taxis on the rank. Oh, big deal. I don't see what the problem is, you know, because there's a bus stop, and you know. Actually, I gotta say it, you know, it's the bus driver's fault. They intending to cause more accidents on the road. Well, it would be no accident if a bus driver hit another vehicle, I can tell you that. Because the bus drivers today are worse than before. And, well, you know, it's typical. Typical bus drivers today. And especially the X4, you know, and sometimes, you know, you get some rude drivers on certain buses. Doesn't have to be X4 all the time, but you know, and some of them are rude to the taxi drivers, and stuff like that. I don't mind the taxi drivers, you know. I mean, I understand, like, you know, why they do this, why they're part on the. But so it's because they haven't got any room in the taxi ranks, and the taxi ranks aren't that big, are they? You know, when you think about it, they haven't really got they haven't got any room to put more taxis in the taxi rank area, so I can't blame them for that. But my real motivation is bus drivers need to stop whining about, like, taxi drivers being bad on the road, especially in Vale, because, you know, bus services are getting worse than taxi drivers. And to be honest, there are decent, good taxi drivers out there. Even females drive better than the females who drive the stagecoach. And the females who drive the stagecoach, I'm sorry, but you know, they do go over the bumps really hard, and that. And that goes for most buses now. I don't mean to be rude to these bus companies, but seriously, if you want to see more buses and stuff, you know, you can't just say, oh, there's not going to be, you know, a good bus. There hasn't been a good bus ever since red and white. This is my honest here. There hasn't been a good bus ever since red and white went out and stagecoach took over, because that's all I can say. And yeah, the decency of not having double deckers is mainly the fault of stagecoach, you know, being too cheap and can't afford, you know, this and that. But you can't give them credit for what they do nowadays. You know, you can't really drink. And do you know one of the things I really don't like on the bus service as well? And do you know what that is? You can't eat and drink on the bus. I mean, come on. I get thirsty if I was on a long travel on a bus. I'd have to drink something. That's the stupid policy. Who do you think we are? Kids? Children? You know, I mean, we're in school, you know. We know that this is a stupid policy. And another thing, they complain almost about every goddamn thing your drivers do on the X4 buses, the stagecoach. And to be honest, let's be fair, they haven't been doing really well ever since. Not many people are catching the buses. You know why? No double deckers. And that's why. That's one of my reasons. Is you're not putting double deckers on in the valleys. Yet I can see them in England, where they got them in England, and they put them through their valleys in England, where they got cottages and all that. Yet we can't have them in South Wales for some reason. The answer is low bridges and gottos. I can understand them not having double deckers as much, but to take away the double deckers from South Wales is like taking champagne from people who drink it. You know, you can't just stop them from doing that. You know, and it's the same when I think about babies with nappies. You know, it'd be like a baby without the nappy. You know, so yeah, you gotta give consideration for people who like to take the bus. I am a bit annoyed because I have to go all the way to Cardiff to get on a double decker, and the Valleys has no, means of transport. But I'm not wound up about it. I can understand it's because of the cars or whatnot. But if they consider this in thought, if they think about it, in public transport, if you've got public transports, you get an expo bus, and yet there's another expo bus right after it, and one says Brummer, and the other says Abergavenny, and then it says Hereford, and they do have one after 30 minutes. It does look like an hour, but it is like every 30 minutes. There's a Abergavenny, there's a Brummer bus, and they go right after each other, and they do make it through the service. So I can understand why they don't bother having double deckers. So if you think about it if you think about the excuse, too much money, too much fuel, too much money, and for two engines in a bus. Yes, you're having two engines in the bus, but think about it, you're cutting down the buses. I'm not saying, alright, you should spend more money and get two engines and have a double decker and have two engines, plus it costs a lot more money for fuel. I understand that. But what I don't understand is you can't seriously think that every bridge is low, in the valleys. And you can't say that it's because of hanging trees. You can't say or comment this because it just doesn't make any sense. Because if you think about it for a moment, it could at least go through Abergavenny, way to Newport on double deck, and it doesn't have to go through the X18 route. It could go into Evervale and Brumau and Evervale and then Tredegar. It could go a certain route. Like they did with, it should do it that way, and go they go through Tredegar and then do that like they did before. It would have been okay, but guess what? That's the problem. The so-called bus services get more people on them. That's what it is with them. It's so-called get more people on act. But it doesn't work like that. You can't just expect to get more people on. You get more people on if it was a double decker, but you can't get more people on if it's a single bus. Just because you extended the back with 4 more windows and plus an extra Wi-Fi and all that, that's not going to convince people. What's going to convince people is a TV on the bus as well. And other things, like maybe people should have the option of having like a DVD player on the thing, on the chairs, so people got a choice then to watch their films. Perhaps that would help, I don't know. And they have earphones so they can plug in so no one can hear what you're watching, and they won't pay you too much attention with what you're watching, so that could help. But no. So anyway, enough of the rant, okay? Enough of this business. What I'm saying is, you can understand the expense on the fuel and everything. It's just a little something I want to recap. It's okay. I understand why they haven't got them, but I can't understand why it's not convincing. Because, if they're going to get more people on the buses, they might as well bring the double-deckers back. So see you now, and sayonara, okay? All good buses have gone to London.